He had a core saying that stood for his art of Jeet Kune Do, but also stood for life. And that was, as I'm sure many of you know, using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation.
Ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. I do not believe that there is such thing as like a Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting. But basically, we have only 2 hands and 2 feet. So styles tends to not only separate men, you know, because they have their own doctrines, and then the doctrine became the gospel truth, you know, that you cannot change, you know. But if you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, you know, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely?
Yellow. No path as the path. That was the code Bruce Lee lived by, and it's interesting how he stumbled upon it. When Bruce Lee studied under Ip Man, he was considered a very talented warrior, but at the same time, nobody really wanted to spar with him simply because he had a quarter German in his blood. He wasn't pure Chinese, thus experienced a lot of resentment from his peers. Instead of complaining, he would search for anyone willing to train and spar with him, stumbling across a sea of disciplines very different from his own. He was fascinated and thought it was foolish dividing himself in the study from everyone else just because they were different, just because their styles were different. Why should I have so much pride preserving a style when they all have something incredible to offer? He felt this way because it resonated with the same feeling he had when all of his countrymen rejected him, just because he was quarter German. Why won't you train with me just because I'm different? I have so much to offer. Why can't we learn together? Why do you reject me? That's what he thought. He saw that every time people told him, that style is inferior. We don't mix styles with them. Stay true to your own style. Every time he heard that, he felt tremendous resentment because that was the same feeling, the same pride that rejected him, the same pride his countrymen used to refuse sparring with Bruce simply because of his German blood. So instead, Bruce rejected their pride and would steal techniques and knowledge from other disciplines, picking fights with students from different schools until he beat up the wrong people and simply had to flee to America. There, his hunger to learn did not end. He continued to search for different techniques, attempting to refine the ultimate style. He would spar with different disciplines, read books from Krishnamurti to fencing, trying to refine his own method, his own style, which would eventually become known as Jeet Kune Do, way of the intercepting fist. But he couldn't do it. He couldn't find the ultimate style. Bruce even became resentful of the name he coined for his own discipline, Jeet Kune Do, way of the intercepting fist, because it implied a way of doing things. He realized even that was not perfect. He gave up trying to find the best method and realized there was no best method. There was no best anything. There is only the journey of you. And through a bit of direction, constant study, practice, through the techniques you learned, you were never trying to learn how to beat another person, but instead, you're always trying to learn how to beat yourself. Beat yourself and grow through the many forms of expression provided through these techniques. It was never about you being better than him or her, but instead, being the best of who you were to your own perception, your own unique expression of life. Life was a constant battle with oneself, and through experimentation, failure, more study, success, we come just an inch closer to understanding. An inch closer to understanding the unique infinity that each of us are. It's quite interesting how Albert Einstein came to the same conclusion as well, that there was no truth, that there is no such thing as one truth, even creating the meshurian circumference to show you'll only find more methods attempting to seek one, only to find more questions after you find one answer. But through this understanding, he came to understand that we are all special, that because we are all unique and different, we all have something incredible to offer, and through that notion, believed we were all the same. Whether you were black, white, brown, Chinese, Hispanic, Native, Irish. The many colors of the human condition. We were all precious, yet for that same reason, all one and the same.
If you ever get to a stage where you're looking at something and saying, nah, that doesn't work, that's, my way is better. That's the wrong way of thinking. You want to learn absolutely everything, you want to absorb everything, and you want to be perfect, you know, you're looking for perfection.
The biggest difference between Conor McGregor and every other mixed martial artist is this. Most martial artists actually don't believe in themselves. They believe in their style. They are representing their style encased in an ideology and using that to grant authority to believe in themselves. Conor is the exact reverse. He believes in himself. He believes in his work, his study, but does not believe in one style. That there is no one best style or method because there is always something you can learn from every one of them. Through Bruce Lee's legacy, John Kavanagh was inspired to teach this philosophy. No way as the way. The ultimate technique is having no technique, no limitation as limitation. Through these understandings from Bruce to John, Conor sculpted his own unique martial arts path, his own way of walking the earth, one no one else had ever seen before. The best teachers do not tell you how to do something, but with a bit of wisdom, they point you in the right direction and inspire you to learn more and more on your own. Because at the end of the day, the best teachers know that they are not the best teachers. Our best teachers, whether it be in the classroom or the dojo, is ourselves. When your heart is on fire with passion, you are the best teacher you could possibly have. There is no force on the planet that can stop a heart determined to learn, a heart filled with passion and curiosity. That's what made Albert Einstein. That's what made Leonardo da Vinci. That's what made Nikola Tesla. That's what made Bruce Lee. That's what made Conor McGregor. Here's what happened when Conor decided to learn from many disciplines. He is primarily a boxer with crisp counterpunches, but the reason his counterpunches are so well timed, are so precise, is because he has a huge barrage of techniques to set up traps for that actually set you up and bait you into his hand. But more so than that, when he encodes timing and technique into his body, thus awareness of movement into his mind intuitively, he is aware of how his opponent is moving. He understands why you were doing what you were doing, why your muscles are contracting this way and how it will translate that way, inevitably, baiting your patterns of movement into his counter. His effortless counters are a decade of hard work and constant study, all expressed in a single moment, not to be mistaken for talent, because that would be an insult, slapping the man in the face who spent much of his life dedicated to learning and working hard, more so than anyone else. It's quite apparent when you watch Conor train. He's always trying to learn, always trying to figure out better ways of doing things to improve himself, never stagnating on an ideology, even taking risks, like movement training, doing stuff no one has empirically tested yet. He's always trying to find ways to improve himself. That's a level of courage most people simply don't have. The moment you stagnate and think your style is the best is the moment Stephen Thompson smashes your wrestling or jiu-jitsu with his variation of Kempo. The moment you think your style is the best, that's when Ronda Rousey, her overpowered judo skills get exploited in their flat-footedness by a high-tier kickboxer but low-tier overall mixed martial artist, Holly Holm, who just has perfect bread and butter with clean and light footwork. The moment you believe one method is best, the moment you get comfortable in yin, yang smashes you. Do you want to know why jiu-jitsu was the strongest pure martial art? What was the entire cultural narrative when it came to fighting? Hands up, get ready for a punch or kick. The cultural narrative was to knock the other person out with your limbs, and it was manly, it was a manly narrative in a borderline homophobic, if not homophobic era. It wasn't softly leverage them to the ground with your hands and then rip their arms off as it brushes against your crotch. No man was thinking that way at all. No man at all could even imagine the borderline softcore gay porn jiu-jitsu looked like to them because they were insecure and they thought fighting was about looking manly. A lot of people, they fought not to protect themselves, not to compete, but to look manly. But for that reason, because no one was willing to understand it, these brilliant methods and techniques founded by Kano Jigoro Their element of surprise destroyed anyone and everyone who refused to learn. Thus, the Gracies made their lineage. When yang gets too big, that's when yang smashes you back to your senses, or chokes you out of them with a rear naked choke if we're still talking jujitsu. Bruce Lee was right, and Conor McGregor, with John Kavanagh's help, proved it. There is no method. You are the ultimate. For a moment, you feel the ultimate truth that you are, the incredible being that you are. You are the master, but only when you let your heart, your core, express itself as life's student. That was Bruce Lee's message. No way as the way. Walking life perpetually as a student so you can execute like a master. I'd like you all, for a moment, to put your hands together and say thank you to Bruce Lee, a man, through his philosophy and ideology, through his path, helped bring us all a little closer together, just ironically by being himself. Thank you for this lesson, Bruce. Thank you everyone who watched this. Please don't forget to smash that like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, peace.
I do not believe that there is such thing as like a Chinese way of fighting or the Japanese way of fighting. Ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself.